Hey, it's Alex with alextucker.ca, reminding you to like this video if you like this video, leave me a comment if you got something to say, and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. Now let's go. Hey, it's Alex, and in this video, you're going to learn 3 ways to crush fluff in your content writing. Now, I've been a professional writer for about 7 years now, and while I started off writing fiction, I brought a lot of knowledge and wisdom over to content writing and copywriting with me when I made that transition about 3 or 4 years ago now. And one of the biggest problems that I see often with writers who are skilled and educated but lack experience is that they write unnecessary words and include unnecessary things in their writing, which basically makes it weak, makes it uninteresting, and makes it harder to read. And one of the biggest things that you have to take into consideration when you're writing content is the fact that people online have very short attention spans. And if you make your content difficult to digest, there's a very good chance that they'll just stop reading it and they'll find something else on the same topic that may be just as good or even better, and they may never come back to your content in the first place. So writing content that isn't fluffy, writing content that is effective and succinct is very important, and it's actually one of my greatest skills as a writer is my ability to kind of condense my writing down to the most basic and relevant components and only use those on the page. And I think that's one of the things that brought me into SEO so quickly when I started learning that, because that is also very important for SEO writing, of which content writing is, of course, a significant part. So anyways, welcome to Content Writing Tutorial for Beginners number 1. And this is 3 ways to crush fluff in your content writing. And in true YouTube format, I'm going to save the best and easiest to implement one for last. So make sure you stick around and get that piece of advice. Now, one of the first things that I want to focus on, because almost everyone who isn't an experienced professional writer does this, one of the first things I want to talk about is overusing words and overusing irrelevant language. So as an example, I had a writer recently who I'm training to work for me in my business write something, and they started it off along the lines of, imagine you're in your office, sitting in your office chair, and not only, that doesn't sound terrible, but not only does it use the word office twice in the same sentence unnecessarily, it also repeats a piece of information by saying you're in your office chair, and the reader knows that you're in your office if you're in your office chair, because otherwise it wouldn't be called an office chair, right? So the first instance of office there is just completely unnecessary. And that was one of the things that I pointed out to this writer before encouraging them to go back into the content and fix additional errors of the same type themselves. So how can you find these types of problems in your writing? It's not as easy as it sounds at first, especially when you're looking at your own writing. So one way that you can do this is using Grammarly. Now, Grammarly is a grammar and spelling checker, or writing checker, I should say. It has quite a bit of functionality, and I'm going to have an affiliate link in the description, which if you click on, it'll take you to a page that looks like this, and you can add the Chrome browser with this button, or add the Chrome browser extension with this button, and it'll basically check anything that you write when it's turned on, and it'll highlight and underline it like you can see in these examples here. And that's actually going to tell you if you're overusing words, or tell you if your writing is, it won't always get it right, but it may tell you if it's a little bit fluffy in some cases. But one thing it'll definitely do is it'll tell you if you're overusing words, and it'll actually propose alternatives that you can use So you don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about it. You can just go, okay, I've overused a word here. Here's a suggestion, and then switch to that. So that's one way that you can do it. Another way is to just ask yourself, does the reader already know this? So you don't want to assume ignorance on your reader's part, but you also can't assume omnipotence. And I often hear people give the advice, I often hear writers giving other writers the advice that, you need to give your audience baby steps, and you need to, you need to assume they know nothing. And I disagree with that. Nobody who is reading content online knows nothing. And the more that you're able to understand what your audience knows and doesn't know, the more you're going to be able to target content at them that they're actually going to appreciate and enjoy. So you really need to be aware of who you're writing for and the kind of level of knowledge that they're going to have so that you know what's relevant and what's not. But the crazy thing is that what a lot of writers will do is they'll repeat the same information throughout the content. So an example of this in content writing might be, let's say you're writing a product review, and you mention that the product can do a certain thing multiple times. Now, you might get away with that 2 or 3 times if you're mentioning it in a different context. Like if you're saying, it can do this, and it can also do this, and that interacts with this feature like this, then that's one thing. But if you're just kind of saying this product is great, and you're going through its list of benefits and features, and you're repeating yourself, that's not great, because your reader is going to get bored, and they're going to be wondering why you're rehashing the same information. They're basically going to assume that you have nothing important or relevant to say because you're not saying anything that's important or relevant. And so you really need to ask yourself, as you're going through and editing your writing, am I telling the reader things that they already know? And if you are, then you want to change that, because it's not going to maintain people's interest. And it's, like I mentioned before, if you're writing content on the internet, there's just a good chance they're going to leave and find someone else's content that's a little bit more optimized for their interest. So that's the second thing that you can do. Number one was use Grammarly, and I highly recommend Grammarly for just a lot of reasons, especially for newer writers. Number two is that you ask yourself, does the reader already know this? And number three is to read your content out loud to yourself. Now, this is a huge, huge thing. You will catch more errors than you are even aware that you're making. And I've seen people dramatically increase their writing skills just by adding this to their toolbox. So basically, what you want to do is just write your content and then take a little break and then come back to it and read it at a leisurely pace out loud to yourself. And you basically, small mistakes and big mistakes, but more importantly, the small mistakes that would escape your notice when you're just reading it to yourself in your head are going to jump off the page or jump off the screen at you. And you're not going to be able to ignore them when you're reading out loud. And this also will help you write in a more natural voice. Another skill that I've developed over the years is the ability to write in a natural voice, wherein people start reading and they feel like they're having a conversation with someone. They don't feel like, okay, I'm consuming content, I'm absorbing information, I'm doing this because I have to. They feel like, they're talking to someone who they can be familiar with and who they can trust. And that's huge in content writing. So reading your content out loud to yourself is a many faceted tool. There's so many reasons to do this, and there's no reason not to do it. So this is probably my biggest recommendation. I mean, I guess the easiest and most important one might be Grammarly, because you can just install it and it does the work for you. But the one that anyone can do, regardless of whether you're even on a computer or not, is read the content out loud. You can always do that. And until you get to the point where you're a very advanced writer and you have these rules kind of ingrained in your style, you really should be doing this. So just to recap, we've got read your content out loud, we've got ask yourself, does the reader already know this? And we've got Grammarly's Chrome extension. So basically 3 free things that you can do to improve your content writing and get rid of that fluff that is just going to annoy and waste people's time. Basically, you're not only wasting other people's time when they're trying to find the relevant information that you're writing, you're also wasting your own time writing it. So I really recommend implementing these practices right away if you're a writer and you're not already using them. And let me know with a comment if you found this helpful. Let me know if there's anything that you think I should cover in an upcoming tutorial, because I'm going to do a number of content writing tutorials for beginners on this channel. All right, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.